Is this one way to push back against an increasingly technocratic global form of government?
Yes, there is, but it has to start at the local level. You're not going to print your own world currency to compete head to head with these. You've got to go, basically attend a few city council meetings. You've got to go in there, say your piece, say we've got a problem, basically the world is run by globalism. This is America. We should have our right of self-determination here, but that's being taken away from us. See who, agrees with you about it. Somebody will probably come up to you after your speech and say, I agree with you 100%. Then you start, you find out who those people are, you get together, and you start putting pressure on your local politicians.
Are you saying the situation is so bad politically that actually, people will call you a radical and an extremist and a terrorist for something like this? But are you saying basically, Jefferson, we need to go fight another revolution or something? Or is there?
I would just as soon see this whole thing resolved non-violently. Of course, I want peace on earth. I want everybody to feel as though we're in fellowship with each other, the brotherhood of man. You know what I'm talking about. That is the right way to do it.
When you or I or Donald Trump, for that matter, use the word globalism, what the liberal establishment says is, that's either they'll say globalism is good and we should have more of it, or they'll say that's a crazy conspiracy theory, there's no such thing as globalism.
What?
I could point to a lot of international organizations that increasingly try to take power away from national government.
Well, what are intelligence agencies? What are trade secrets? What's intellectual property? They're all conspiracies.
Right.
Okay? People trying to get ahead by lying by omission or relying directly to other people. The competition, right? That's what it is. You can't get away from conspiracy. It's how the world works. As a matter of fact, it's game theoretically rational.
So you're saying not conspiracy theory, you're saying just flat out conspiracy.
That's what makes the world go around, I'm afraid. And but of course, the elite themselves realize this. They know that that's how the world works. They just want to distract you.
Well, that's such a great way to put it, where you say a trade secret, or just a group of people come together. They say, I've got this good idea for a company, and we're going to come together and do that, and we're not going to let the competition know about it. We're going to start this, and we're going to hopefully it'll be successful and we'll make some money. And that is a form of conspiracy.
WF and their Young Global Leader program, young global leaders. I mean, everybody's a young global leader, right? I mean, Trudeau, Macron, Merkel, Putin. And for the Putin deals, that very much surprised me, but Klaus Schwab is on record. He's on video, in fact, claiming that Vlad Putin is one of his young global leaders, trained in globalism.
It's funny you mention that, the young wing of the World Economic Forum. When I was a freshman in college, you get all of these opportunities for internships and fellowships, and you get a grant, and you try to get a grant, and so you apply to these things. I don't know anything about any of these groups. And so I said, I'm a politically minded young man, very conservative, so it made me very different than my classmates.
Right.
And one of the opportunities that came across was the World Economic Forum Global Change Makers Fellowship.
You were invited to be a part of this?
No, I applied. What did I?
You actually applied?
I applied, and they said,
shame on you.
Well, I didn't know what it was. So I said, what's the experience? I said, well, I'm very involved in this conservative group and this right-wing group and this.
Good way to get ahead, I got to give you that.
Well, but I'll tell you, I thought I had a good resume. It wasn't like my classmates, which was they had all their liberal groups. So I said, I'm a conservative. But you probably want some conservatives here, right? And so I apply, and you're going to be shocked to hear this, Chris. I didn't hear back. They didn't take me.
Yeah, I'm absolutely flabbergasted.
And my liberal classmates, who I felt had a weaker application, but they were all part of the liberal groups, they did get it. Well, I guess it makes sense now that I know what the World Economic Forum is.
What is socialism? I mean, what is communism, right? These things were actually funded. They're more or less invented by the central bank. Who funded, originally was paying Marx and Engels, and before that, Moses Hess and other people to come up with, it's a strategy for world domination, and it has been for the last 200 years. What has changed?
So when someone like Trump comes along and he says, I'm not going to fight this political battle along exactly left-right lines or Republican-Democrat, but I'm saying I'm going to stand for the American nation and nationalism generally against globalism. But he managed to get through. He did get elected.
Yes, he did.
Were you a Trump supporter? You don't need to say if you don't want to.
As a matter of fact, back when people were saying, Trump can't read. Look, Look at the way he hesitates. You know, he can't, he's got trouble with the teleprompter. The guy can't read. I actually stood up and I said, no. I said, I've met Donald Trump and I think his IQ is probably equal to that of the average Harvard professor.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. I actually stood up for, of course I never got anything out of it, but I thought I was doing,
You just said it because
telling people that, basically he is competent, he's a good businessman, and therefore could be good for the country, and I wanted people to understand that.
So how did this guy, and I've asked this to my friends, and I said, how did this guy, who I think was basically on the level and really did at least try to pose a stopping block to the globalism program, how did he ever get elected? How'd they let him through?
Well, he was a little bit of a wild card. Right? Trump is not as easily controlled as some of them are. So he stood up there and he spoke his mind. He's got good instincts in that respect because what he said resonates with what is in the minds of a lot of American citizens. We want to have our own country. We want America to have first. We don't want our borders to be open. We don't want millions of third world migrants coming here every year and displacing us from our own territory. I mean, and Trump actually, he did a good job of enunciating that. That's how he got elected, okay? And the first time around, they weren't prepared.
Yeah.
So they couldn't do anything about it the second time around.
Yeah. Are you suggesting, Chris, that there were some questions about the 2020 presidential election?